It's Florida State Week, and we just spent time with Marcus Freeman. This is Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis, brought to you by RVMH Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. I'm Tim Prister with Tim O'Malley, joined by John Brice. And we got a bunch to talk about today. We had the bye week, the week off. Let's start with the injuries. Still questionable is Mitch Jeter, which is a little bit disappointing. We kind of anticipated that he would be back, and still could be, of course. Tay Johnson, in a backup cornerback role, he may be somebody that's a possibility on special teams. Has not played a game yet with the 4 regular season games remaining. Those are now open to the freshmen that did not get action. Logan Thomas with a hamstring issue. I wonder if Tay Johnson might be a candidate to replace that spot. And then the big news, Jordan Botelho. I asked Marcus Freeman whether he had a conversation with him about returning next year, and he said that he anticipates that being the case. So we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But Florida State's 1-8. They're a bad football team. They're an awful offensive football team. But I agree with Marcus Freeman. There is a lot of talent on this team. That has to be the message to the Notre Dame football team. I think particularly on the defensive line, there's some talent there, but they are bad on offense.
And if Notre Dame hadn't lost to Northern Illinois, I'd be concerned about the fact that Notre Dame probably wouldn't be able to focus on this week of practice because, I mentioned on our podcast, Florida State brings out the best in the crowd and the fans. 1-8. When Marcus Freeman says people talk to him about Florida State being 1-8 while he's recruiting, that's a bad sign for Florida State. But that Northern Illinois loss stings. It should sting because otherwise Notre Dame would be number 2, 2.5, 3. When the rankings come out tomorrow, I think he can hammer that home, JB.
No, I absolutely think he can, and I think this team has learned the hard way the maturity that's required on a week-in and week-out basis, and I think, frankly, we've seen this team maturing over the course of the year on a week-in and week-out basis. And to your point about Florida State, absolutely dreadful. It was interesting. I asked Marcus Freeman about it being a little bit of a full-circle moment for him, his first game ever as Notre Dame defensive coordinator, of course, against Florida State on the road down there to open the 21 season. He then revealed some previous matchups where he'd gone head-to-head with Norvell and expressed his real respect for Norvell's offensive mind and the way he can change pretty chameleon-like on a week-to-week basis with his offense. But his offense this year has no color. It's gray. They've only scored more than 20 points once this season. That wasn't even in this country, guys. That was in Ireland.
That was August 24th. That's when that was. No doubt. They haven't scored more than 16 since then. Yeah, keep the pain of NIU was the phrase that Marcus Freeman used. And Tim, I agree with you there. That will be the theme the rest of the way, and I don't think that they have to worry about over these last 4 games whether they will stay focused on the matter at hand. Same offensive line. Marcus Freeman was asked. He had made a comment that the offensive line against Navy might not be the offensive line moving forward. We can discuss that a little bit. Maybe we'll get more into in our Irish Illustrated Insider podcast. But it will be the same offensive line, and that had Billy Schrouth at left guard and Spindler, Rocco
right.
Spindler. I wanted to say Mark Spindler, Rocco Spindler at right guard.
I could use Mark Spindler, defensive tackle.
They could.
Right
Yeah,
now,
he'd be good.
Yes, it mentioned Jason O'Neill will not be back this week. Probably won't be back because of that. He's taking a personal situation. Look, they should ride this offensive line out unless something goes wrong, because now you want to hit your playoff stride. This is perfect timing. I think, JB, you mentioned a few times, they just need Billy Schrouth back so he can be good for the stretch run. Well, he's been back, and then he has a week off. This is perfect timing for that. You mentioned Mitch Jeter. As long as Mitch Jeter is coming back and kicking maybe against Virginia, it is not his first kick isn't at USC. I'm okay with that as well. This is the stretch run for the Irish. I want to see this offensive line gel. Notre Dame can beat almost everybody in the country. I always wonder, there's a couple teams out there whose defensive line on an A game would hurt Notre Dame's offensive line as previously constructed. Schroth helps that. Senior Spindler helps that.
Yeah, and John, it's good news to hear that Jordan Botelho was coming back. I think everybody wanted to hear that, wanted to know that. There may be some complications, though, with that.
Yeah, it's a difficult rehab process for Botelho, and I think that it's going certainly a little slower than he would like, and there's just concern there about his ability to fully recover from the injury. We knew that Notre Dame, especially the way he was playing, the way that he had become a vocal leader as well, would welcome him back in a hurry. Botelho very much wants to rejoin this team, but it's been expressed to me that it's an incredibly long and daunting road of recovery ahead for for Jordan Botello. One quick thing on Mitch Jeter. We know that Marcus Freeman said questionable or day-to-day, so to speak, but Mitch Jeter is listed as the starting place kicker on Notre Dame's depth chart that was released in the middle of Marcus Freeman's press conference.
I want to mention Jaylen Sneed because he was Marcus Freeman caught up on some news that we normally get the Monday after a game, but with the bye week, we hadn't spoken with him. But Jaylen Sneed was named the defensive player of the game against Navy, and I want to commend him. We talked about it. It was a few weeks ago where I said it's looking pretty grim as to whether he'll be back. And at the end of the season, that's a different decision to be made. But I want to give him a lot of credit because a lot of guys would go into the tank. He's number 5 linebacker out of the 5 that they use. He played extremely well last week. He played hard until the very end, to the point where I think some of the Navy offensive players were a little annoyed at how hard he was playing in such a one-sided game. But I'm going to give him a lot of credit. He could go 2 different ways. He could choose easy or hard, as Marcus Freeman would say. He chose to be a good teammate and a good team player. And good for him. He played really well against Navy.
Spent the last 5 weeks defending Jaylen Sneed when I spent the first 2 years wondering why people were calling for Jaylen Sneed all the time over Notre Dame seniors. It's an odd situation. Look, he's coming into his own. He's going to have a decision to make because he's still going to have to beat somebody out, but he's a versatile player. He has a chance next year to more than 15 snaps. He's not going to start completely over any of those guys, but you can make it so Jaden Osbury doesn't start fully over you. So KVA doesn't start completely over you. Jaylen Sneed's a valuable cog in this. He's a guy they have to re-recruit. I asked Marcus Freeman about this today, not Sneed specifically. I'm going to write a story about it. Re-recruiting is crucial right now in college football, and Sneed's a guy I think they should re-recruit.
And we heard a coach over the weekend say about a specific player, and the exact game escapes me. I think it was Shane Beamer who talked about having guys illegally recruited to go into the portal last year who elected to stay and stick around his South Carolina program for the opportunity to get a win like the Gamecocks had on Saturday night against number 10. And I only bring that up because Jaylen Sneed is a guy that has the athletic skill set, the toolbox, that would make people want to illegally find a way to recruit him to go into the portal, especially when you remember Jaylen Sneed has 2 years left. Jaylen Sneed is a multiple 6-figure player in this current climate of college football and in this portal era. And Tim, you remind me, so I'll just bring it up right now. This is all credit to Tim O'Malley, but he asked me for the portal windows.
Yes.
It's December 9th through December 28th. There is, if your team advances in the playoffs, an opt-out window. After that, I'll get the exact date range on that. It's maybe 5 to 7 days after your team's final game in the college football playoffs. Otherwise, the portal window, 20 days, December 9 to December 28, and then a 10-day portal, maybe April 16 to 26.
There was a question about C.J. Carr, whether he was throwing yet. He has an elbow issue. Marcus Freeman said he's getting close to that, but they want to make sure that he's 110% before
There's
they do that.
40% of our listeners that don't have any idea he has elbow soreness, I'm guessing, and so you are all falling down right now. But he has been out with elbow soreness. He has. He's not on any injury reports though.
We've been saying it for 4 weeks. Since the week after Louisville.
It was stated a
Trust
month
me,
ago.
I saw our board. Yeah.
It was stated a month ago. But question was, will surgery be necessary? And Marcus Freeman ruled that out. They just want to be safe. And Marcus Freeman even said, if he was a starter or a potential starter, they would have sped the process up a little bit, but that's not the case. So I didn't realize that was so startling. I guess I forgot that we said that a month ago. But anyway, he'll be fine. Positive things said about Jordan Faison, about the high level that he practices at, and that's why we've speculated about, hey, this especially after the Navy game, this may be a guy that ends up being targeted a whole lot more in the month of November.
Faison and Mitchell Evans.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking for in November, because that changes the offense. The offense has been improving since Miami of Ohio halftime. We have been able to stop talking about halftime and quarters for a long time now, but November can be much better with Mitchell Evans and Jordan Faison.
Have I left anything else out, or have I said something I shouldn't have said?
No, I know there's fans out there that don't know the fourth-string quarterback could have elbow soreness. So
well, he has elbow soreness, and they're making sure that he's 110% before he comes back. That's it for today's Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis, brought to you by RVMH Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. We'll move on to our next project. That's Irish Illustrated Insider Podcast coming up. And I want to remind people that we're going to have a special podcast on Wednesday with the College Football Playoff Committee voting Tuesday night. We'll gather together on Wednesday as well as Thursday, but Wednesday we'll talk specifically about where Notre Dame is ranked in the first poll.